When you're a part of the woke sports world, hypocrisy has to be in your nature because it's standing operating procedure, especially for these people in the mainstream media, because the double standard that is applied to black coaches as opposed to white coaches is pretty stunning. The things that are said immediately upon a black head coach losing their job, regardless of whether they were one of the worst coaches in the league, regardless of what the outcome or the expectations were for that season, suddenly it becomes all about skin color, when you never seem to hear that when it comes to white coaches. And of course, somehow they accuse the NFL owners and the GMs that fired this black head coach. They accuse them of racism, but somehow this racism only seems to happen on these teams when you start at the head coach position. Everything other than that's fine. 75% black players on the roster, no problem, no racism there. But as soon as it comes to head coaches, then it becomes a problem. It's laughable. And we saw the same thing play out, especially in the sports media after the firing of Lovie Smith. The Texans, who were the worst team in the league until they won their last game when they probably should have lost it to keep that number one pick, Lovie Smith was fired. That's one season after the Texans fired their previous head coach, who was also black. So you complain when black coaches get hired, then you complain when black coaches get fired. That's what happens in the woke sports landscape. And now the GM for the Texans is having to push back on these allegations. Houston Texans GM pushes back on racism accusations after firing two black coaches. It's not about race. And if it were me, I'm just going to be real. If it were me and I was worried that I'd get in a position where I can't fire someone because of the color of their skin, maybe I wouldn't hire them because of the color of their skin. That's almost the position you're putting some of these people in at this point. Because guess what? Not everybody's Mike Tomlin. Not everybody's Bill Belichick. Most coaches aren't going to last for 2 decades at their job. There's going to be a pretty high turnover most places in the NFL. But this is just such nonsense. Houston Texans general manager Nick Caceres defended his organization's decision to fire 2 black coaches amid accusations of racism. For the past 2 seasons, the Texans have fired their respective head coaches, David Culley and Lovie Smith, due to their losing records. Under Culley's leadership, they were 4-13. The team fared even worse under Lovie Smith, 3-13-1. After firing Smith, the team has since been accused of being unfair to black coaches. Here's Robert Griffin III. The Houston Texans have fired Lovie Smith after 1 year. Using 2 black head coaches to tank and then firing them after 1 year shouldn't sit right with anybody. Really? They used Lovie Smith to tank? Lovie Smith's Houston Texans team won the last game of the season, the only fucking game where tanking need have applied to make sure that you get that number 1 pick. Like this is a team that was pretty competitive down the stretch. This is a team that won their last game. The only game you needed to tank in. The only game that mattered for tanking would have been that last one, isn't it? And that's the one they won to make sure they didn't secure the number 1 overall draft pick. Stephen A. Smith said on ESPN's First Take, the Houston Texans is a football team African Americans need not apply. Well, let's listen to Stephen A. Smith.
The Houston Texans organization, I'm going to say something loud and clear over the national airwaves, and I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. African Americans need not apply.
African Americans need not apply. I don't like the Texans. I don't like the way they treat black people. You shouldn't go there. That's what Stephen A. Smith, just a couple days removed from saying we shouldn't bring identity politics or politics into sports. That's what he's saying on ESPN. And then you have David Dennis Jr. Let's listen to this again on ESPN.
Yeah, I'm going to focus on the Texans here. This is why there's so much skepticism about hiring black coaches in the NFL. This is Lovie Smith, the second coach in a row for the Texans that was fired after the first year without much, equipment to do anything with that team. There was a dead-end job. And we know that McNair did not really want Lovie Smith for that job. He wanted Josh McCown, and they picked Lovie Smith because of the Brian Flores lawsuit. And so now you get to hire the coach that you want, probably Josh McCown, with the new quarterback coming up, and you get to give him years and years because you say you're developing somebody new. Meanwhile, the black coaches got kicked off the organization.
It's so insane to sit there. These same fucking people, these same losers are going to sit there and bitch and whine and moan and complain as much as they possibly can if every single coaching position isn't filled by a black man. You know that they will. We see it year after year. That's all they'll do is bitch and complain. And then what happens if one of those coaches gets fired? If one of those coaches has a bad season and gets fired by their team? Well, that's just racist. They just wanted to hire a white person anyway. It is so insane to institute all these rules and policies and things like this to try to get black coaches hired. Then when they do get hired, you complain if they get fired. There's no winning. There is no winning in these scenarios. It is laughable. And now Nick Caserta's had to come out and say this. In a press conference on Monday, Houston GM Nick Caserta addressed the controversy. The reporter asked, why should any black coach that you're going to interview feel they can trust that you'll put their full faith in trusting their plan and they could be the long-term answer since you fired 2 black coaches after 1 year? I think each individual is going to have to make that choice. In the end, it's not about race, it's about finding quality coaches, he responded. All I can do is be honest and forthright, which I've done from the day I took this job. And I'm going to continue to do that and try to find the coach that makes the most sense for this organization. The fact that he's having to defend himself against this is absolutely insane. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.